go. The Nick Bob Podcast is brought to you by Pella Windows and Doors. Pella of Omaha and Lincoln wants every homeowner to have the best quality windows and doors, and they're willing to bet $100 on it. Call the Omaha or Lincoln showroom or go to PellaOmaha.com to find out how you can get $100 and new windows and doors starting at $122 a month. And we're brought to you by the Brickway, Cut Spike, Lucky Bucket family, great brewery and distillery. We've already cashed one of these bottles. I got the Brickway bourbon right here. Had an Oktoberfest on Friday night. That's like a new tradition in my life, a Friday night Oktoberfest, you know?
Oh, heck yeah.
You got another bottle coming your way, Playboy.
I heard somebody was questioning us.
Prosco was crazy. Like, you guys really like that whiskey? I was like, yes, we really like that.
I've been thinking about this whiskey. That's how much I've liked it.
See that? Let me tell you guys, for Bo Ruud to be thinking about whiskey, it's pretty dang good whiskey.
I wake up and I think, how about that whiskey?
I need to have Bo every morning has blueberries, strawberries, flaxseed, protein mixed in a giant blender full of smoothie.
Right.
Are you going to start adding Cut Spike bourbon?
I don't think there's anything wrong with just a little pour, right? Enough to get you going, but doesn't affect your speech. No, no slurring during work.
Don Draper started every day with a nice, I believe it was Cut Spike was in his office. They're located in the Omaha La Vista area, 4 blocks south of 120th and Giles. Go check them out. And we're brought to you by Peerless Energy Systems, the Sullair authorized distributor for Nebraska and Iowa. Sullair is the leading American manufacturer of air compressors for any and all air compressor needs. Go to peerlessenergy.com. Okay, here we are. It is Sunday. Nebraska, they win 28-10 over the Purdue Boilermakers. And, wow, talk about a tale of two halves.
Yep.
I mean, holy guacamole. At halftime, it's like Husker Nation is on the brink of a full-fledged freakout. And that second half, the final 20 minutes of the game kind of saves the season a little bit.
Yes.
You know, I mean, you start 0-2 in Big Ten play, the way overtime unfolded against Illinois, and then you go play a sloppy game and lose to Purdue. Yikes. But because in the first half, that game did kind of feel like a lot of the maddening, how the hell did Nebraska lose that game of years past, where kind of one thing goes wrong, then another thing goes wrong, and all of a sudden Nebraska's just like in their own head. It's going the wrong direction. So you do got to hand it to them. I want to start like big picture positive. They had an awful first half, embarrassing momentum-crushing plays with 2 blocked field goals. They missed another one. They had 6 trips inside the 35-yard line, and they come away with 0 points. They then give up 3 points on the first drive of the third quarter to Purdue. They're down 3-0, and in that moment, they did not fold. Like they bowed up, they fought back, and then they saved the season in the final 20 minutes. I thought Rule after the game was kind of trying to spin it as like a close game win. Even though it was 7-3 in the fourth quarter, I'm not quite viewing it that Nebraska like slayed that close game dragon here. Or do you?
That's what I was actually just thinking through that, because we kind of been hitting the dragons each week, right? Like the three dragons we got to slay. I don't know if that's a true close game. But it was a fourth quarter game, right? So it's a borderline, right? It definitely wasn't a big time game.
Yes.
But I think in the third dragon is the turnover dragon. Slayed that one for sure this game. Mm-hmm. 0 turnovers, right? Win the turnover battle. But is it a close game? Kind of. It's a fourth quarter game, so I'd say give them that.
I think here's why I think we're like slow to be like, you killed Puff the Magic Dragon, not Khaleesi's dragon here. Yeah. You know, like check it out. And you're like, that's Puff, brother.
Yeah,
okay. I think the reasons. Before we get into kind of the yuck fest that was the first half, like 3 reasons why they were able to hang on and not fold and win the game. Number 1, the defense. The defense for 4 quarters was steady and solid. Number 2, Dylan Raiola. Like in years past, Nebraska wasn't running the ball great in the first half. They only had 49 yards rushing, but the fact that you have Raiola, who could draw those pass interferences and could actually make throws. I mean, the throw to Banks in the third quarter, I mean, that's a throw that not as simple as it may have seemed.
Yeah.
It feels like a throw that Nebraska quarterbacks have struggled to make. But I think the third reason is the reason people aren't thinking they slayed the dragon is because, let's be honest, Purdue is bad.
That's fair.
Is that I don't want to be like, man.
Yeah.
Like, I think a part of why I'm not necessarily totally vibing with rules, being like, because the narrative around here, we don't win close games. I think everybody was like, yeah, I mean, I give it to you, but like, Purdue is not very good.
Here's what I'll give Rule though. It's like when you're growing and you're building a program, Purdue's not good, but we've been losing these sort of like, oh, we're better than them, but we're still not there yet games. The difference between winning and losing that game how it happened won't matter at the end of the year when we're looking at that. When we look at the full, like, are we 6-6? Are we 7-5? Are we 8-4? Or like, we won't care if we're 9-3 and one of those wins is Purdue and it was ugly. We won't care. And that's the part about it that I think, I don't know if I'm phrasing that correctly.
No, I know what you're saying.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, style points don't matter at the end of the year. It matters now. It's like, because we came off a bad loss. But, dude, like, Nick, we finally are winning these games that are kind of just a muck.
Totally agree.
Against a bad team, but, like, we didn't lay the egg and lose.
We talk about these big picture or big dragons, turnover margin, close games, but, like, there are little checkpoints and hurdles they gotta overcome. And one of them is winning games where you don't play well, where you are the better team.
Yes, that's right. That's a better way to.
You know what I mean? And the one thing you have to kind of say is true about that Purdue win is that, like, in years past, there are numerous games where Nebraska was the better football team than fill in the blank opponent over the course of the last 6-7 years, but they played poorly and they couldn't find a way to overcome themselves to win it.
Yes, that's right. That's
exactly
right.
I think we need to start positive there.
Yeah.
And tip your cap to them in that. I mean, listen, I'm sure there was a lot of people. I mean, I saw Twitter and at halftime it was like, what is going on?
Yeah. It was nasty.
It was terrible.
Yeah.
So with that first half, like, I don't necessarily want to go like drive to drive and be like, and then they gave it to Raiden although Raiden midweek pod, we have a conversation to be had.
I already know where you're going
about the club.
I know where you're going.
We have a very big conversation about an individual that is calling for reservations at the club.
I think the club is going to be shook.
The club, there might be some. We're gonna remodel the club here. But so, real quick, the first drive of the game, they get down to the 34, and it's 3rd and 10, and they decide to punt it. Were you okay with that decision? Because that was the weird play. Buschini actually kicked a great punt, but our gunner ran to the back of the end zone. He might have gotten shoved a little bit like that, but you have been a gunner, I'm sure. Like you, have you ever been a gunner?
I wanted to see a replay. I didn't understand what happened.
I rewatched the game last night. I took my bourbon here and I just like took a shot and I was like, here we go. We're going to watch the first half again. And rewatching it, it looked like
sons of bitches.
What is going on with
I'm taking great notes here, but
what is with Rule's hat and where did he get it? I want a hat.
Can I tell you something? My boss, he just won't stop riding me. That's your notes.
That's in my notes right here. Why is Rule's no? It looked like he got shoved. Right as he they were kind of wrestling and he got shoved, but nevertheless, were you okay with them not? I mean, it's what's hard is it was 3rd and 10 or 4th and 10, so it wasn't like 4th and 3.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But so that's one drive, you come away with nothing, and you don't down it at the 2, all those things. Second drive, they get it to 4th and 1 at the 19, and they bring in Harburg. And that's when you have the false start with Bryce Benhart, and then Mr. Hull comes out and he channels his inner Rufio, and he gets his looky, I got hooky going, and misses it. Can we pause for a second? I feel bad saying this. I think I don't want to go too far and say I'm out on the Harburg packages, but I'm not in love with all these Harburg packages.
I have a theory on it. I have a theory that it's not even that we're like excited about doing it. It's like, I think it's all for window dressing. It's like, I seriously think it's like they want to do something every week with him so that the other team has to spend way more time preparing for it. In a weird way, like I don't think Rule even cares. I think he's doing it as like a time-sucking strategy for the next week's opponent.
That could be.
It's really weird. I don't know why.
He did the one wheel. He drew the pass interference. Okay, but like what we never talked about last week. Did you about have a heart attack on the
throwback?
The throwback.
It was It
was like, what?
Yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't like it
at all.
Yeah, it's too risky. It was like too risky, and I don't know. And
yes, and I think maybe we talked about this. Maybe we had too much whiskey and we don't remember talking about this. But like, I think I love how we're painting it like every day. We're just like brushing our teeth with whiskey and like I don't know. To me, if you're gonna do that, I love how we're now recapping a play for. If you're gonna, wouldn't you want Harburg to throw the pass? Not necessarily throw it back to Raiola, or if you're gonna do the throwback to Raiola, maybe not put Harburg, like have Ramir throw it back, so it's not like, because you brought a point on like there are certain positions that guys get into, whereas defensively you're like alert. You're on alert.
When the quarterback's in, something tricky is going to happen. So I mean, maybe it was like a trick on the trick. Like
I guess so.
He's not going to throw it. He's going to actually throw it back to the other quarterback. But like I said, I'm not in love with like the Harburg package is fine. I just think that, for instance, we bring Harburg in, new quarterback, different cadence. You get a false start. That's not a coincidence.
No.
That's what happens when you take one quarterback in and out. Like, this is why I don't like the rotating of quarterbacks as much. But like, yeah, I mean, Nick, I think it is all for like, how much time can we suck out of
maybe you might be right.
Game plans? Because I'm guessing they're coaches and they go, well, if the other team did it, we'd have to spend X amount of time each day going over that play, having a couple of scout team plays for it. I think it's somewhere in that realm.
But because if you're Ruckers this week, you got to prepare for a Harburg quarterback zone read power quarterback running football package.
We've done the throwback with him, a wheel route out of it.
Yes.
Probably like what would be the, fake run pass he's going to do, right? Like you probably have to spend, there's probably like 5 to 10 plays you have to prepare for the Harburg package.
But here's agree. Obviously, it's like
right?
yes, but you just false started because of that. You false started on a 4th and 1.
Is that points? Right?
Like it's maybe
are we
points.
Score,
you sacrificed points because you maybe wanted to make the other team have to prepare a little bit.
Getting a little cute. That's fine. I don't know. It's in the end, we don't want to say like you can't ever do anything. Like we should be able to execute, but
right.
That's how I see it. Like you're just kind of adding a lot in, and like I think Harburg's a good little player, but I don't think he is like Tim Tebow Jr., right?
If
that's Tim Tebow
Taysom
Jr.,
Hill.
Yeah.
Or
some guy that you're just like, that guy can ball.
Yes.
Like, that guy is going to change the game. Like, I don't feel like he's going to change the game.
I don't either, unfortunately. Like, even when E. Crouch beat out Newcomb, it's like, well, you got to get Newcomb on the field doing other stuff in the ball.
Yeah.
Like, I don't quite see Harburg like that. And I think I am, because, and then the other thing is like, the reality is when he's out there at quarterback or doing whatever, you're taking you're taking your best player on the team off the field, or you're just splitting him out and making him do nothing in Dylan Raiola. Like
I'm okay with a Harburg power. I am okay with that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with a little bit of that sprinkled in. I don't know that I love it in the in some like crucial downs. You know what I'm saying? Like the more crucial the down, I feel like I like Dylan to have the ball.
Agree. Totally agree. That's a good way to put it.
If it's like second down, then around the 50.
You're 2nd and 1 and you want to get, whatever.
Bring in Harburg, I find but 4th and 1, 4th and 2, goal line for you're taking it out of
Dylan
Raiola's hands. And that's the coaching art, right? Like knowing when and where to do that. I think that's the art of that job.
I agree. So they false start. Here comes Hole, misses it. Nebraska's next drive. Well, then Purdue drove down and missed a 39-yard field goal thanks to compliments of the doctor, James Williams. He didn't rock the baby. He did the LeBron. I was like, what are you doing?
I mean, we've been building him up for this moment.
We inquired about billboards of you having like a doctor. I mean, wouldn't that be tight on I-80, a Dr. James Williams with like a chart, a stethoscope, and like a quarterback laying down in the back?
An NIL deal from Brian Health.
But so then the Nebraska's next drive is when they get to the 4th and 3 from the 22-yard line, and it's the offensive pass interference on Fedoni on the little swing out to Ramir, and he scores a touchdown. I mean, it's been talked about a ton. Obviously, a terrible call.
Yeah,
right.
So I went on a little tirade about this with Stu. So Stu Bradley was in for the weekend, and
yes,
we spent like a whole weekend, like it was like a football weekend, talking football, watching football. We re-broke down the Illinois game with film. Like we were like,
yes.
So we were just like,
just two linebackers out there,
just reliving life. So,
hey man, you want to set the edge? Do I really? You want to go outside and set the edge? Okay, continue.
But anyway, so I started talking through my like philosophy on replay, penalties, and I do think there is something to why I don't want any more replay. I want zero replay. I want replay to be abolished in every way, right? So it's just old school.
You've been on this. This is not a new thing. You've been on this for a long time.
I've been on this for a long time. Refs make the call. We live with the call. That's the way it is in high school. It's the way it was in college and pro football for most of the last
life,
right? Last century. What happens, though, is this. You start replaying, and the more and more there are replays, the more and more refs start throwing flags. And what they do is they anticipate something to be a penalty, even if it's not. I saw it for sure it's a penalty. It's way more of it's like, hey, I think that's going to be targeting. I'm going to throw it. That might be a late hit in the quarterback. They're anticipating the penalty before the penalty is actually like seen. That is a pick that they thought was looking like a pick was coming.
Fedoni did an amazing job of
and he avoided the pick, but the flag was coming either way because they're getting so used to throwing these flags.
Yeah.
It's becoming a part of their process. Is just like when in doubt, throw it, or anticipate and throw it versus like I like football and sports in general. Basketball is another great example of I don't want you anticipating calls. Only when it's pretty egregious right in front of your eyes and you can see it, then you call it. You don't guess. You don't anticipate. And that to me is where sports is going, and it all starts with too much replay.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think you're
That's
right.
What happened, in my mind.
And because it did, Fedoni certainly like, now was his job on that play, let's not be disingenuous and act like his job on that play wasn't to get in
his
the way. His job is to get in the way. Okay, but that is legal.
It is very legal. And what he did then is avoid intentionally
he basically
and got out of the way. And I don't know that he even nicked him.
I don't think their jerseys even like grazed each other.
Yeah, and the fact that he went so far out of his way to avoid him, to me it means the flag was the guy. So this is a whole big. It's like a cause and effect thing, and it's spilling out of control. I think I've never seen more penalties than I feel like in the first 5 games this season. Like it is, our offense has had 10 receiver holds or block in the backs, like 10. I bet there's been 10 on the receivers.
Well, and there's been what was there 5 or 6 pass interferences?
Yeah,
I mean it's. I mean, Purdue had 13 penalties for 165 yards, and Nebraska had 11 penalties for 94 yards.
It's just these refs are
24 penalties.
They're too much of a part of the game now. I mean, they are throwing a flag. Yeah. Sometimes on a drive, it will be like 5 plays in a row, and it feels like there's a flag, and you're just like, it becomes the game of the flag.
It's just obviously that play was incredibly frustrating. It wipes out a touchdown. I think. that play, as much as any, I think derailed Nebraska. Like, I think they got super frustrated too after that. Rule got really frustrated, and rightfully so. So then Nebraska has to punt. And then here comes their next drive. Was one of the only times I thought they get it to 1st and 10 at the 23. Raiola, I think it was one of the only moments where he needed to realize he's not playing high school football anymore, and you're playing in the Big Ten, where he got way too casual and the guy darted up the field and sacks him.
Yeah, so
and it kind of killed the drive.
If we have to be critical of Raiola, which we rarely have been, we really are. Like, that's a moment where a quarterback has to win, and the win is this: you have to avoid him or you have to throw it away.
Yes,
and that was not a hard situation. He should win those moments, and I think he'll learn from it.
And he usually does.
He usually does. Yeah, but that's a moment where, like, if you can point to like a Dylan losing a one-on-one, that's Dylan's one-on-one. Like, that's him missing a tackle or, missing an assignment. His job is to avoid or to throw it away, because he had plenty of time to do both.
Yes.
And he didn't. So, like, that's a being very critical of Dylan.
Yeah, which we basically never are.
We don't like
we want to marry him and all that.
And we're not going to do much.
But I thought it was, I think we got to be able to call it like we see it. It was 1st and 10 at the 23, and that play kills the drive.
That's right.
And so then here comes Hole again, 44-yard field goal. This one gets blocked. It was such a bad snap. Yeah. To the point where Rule said they changed long snappers in the first half. But, that snap not only was in the ground, Buscini had to extend way out in front of him just to stop it and get it and bring it. And so they block a field goal.
Yeah.
And super, super duper frustrating, obviously. Then in the next drive, they get it to 3rd and 1. They get the false start, backs them up. Then they miss a 3rd and 6 pass over the middle of the Nair, and they have to punt it. So now you've had either, like, you punt from the 34, you miss a field goal, you had a false start on a 4th and short, you have a false start on a 3rd and short, you get a field goal blocked.
It's probably it's as bad of a red zone performance. Roughly red zone. We got right around that 25. I felt like the 25 was like the mark where we're like, here comes bad football.
Yes. And it's weird.
What was that? 6 or 7 of those in the first?
I thought there were 6 drives inside the 35 yard line. You come in with 0 points, because in between the 25 to the 25 call it, 30 to the 30 call it, Nebraska was just moving the ball at will.
Yeah.
And obviously the half ends with the 31-yard field goal getting blocked, another one that felt like a bad snap. That's what's hard. Everybody wants to be critical of Hole. And listen, he's far from, Adam Vinatieri here. But the 2 that were blocked, those snaps were just horrific.
And, and his kicks were then therefore maybe lower than what we would predict him to normally do.
Yeah.
So you got to give him a little wiggle room, but he's also given me no confidence to think we need to give this guy a real long, like, it's like his leash is almost nothing.
It is amazing to think when you look at his bio. He was at Southwest. You read his bio, his senior year of football, he was 18 for 18 on extra points, but he was 3 for 3 on field goals. And then he went to Iowa Western and redshirted. So Nebraska's starting kicker has basically, going into this Illinois game, has kicked 3 real field goals.
Oh, yeah. See, that's
so. This is a guy. This is a guy that's also like. He shouldn't be. You wouldn't think he would be out there right now. And then when you have a guy that's that inexperienced, the one thing that then compounds issues is when you have like the snaps are bad, the holds are bad. So now he's having to worry about all this other stuff. So that's the first half. Where were you at at halftime? I say everybody was freaking out. I was with a bunch of our buddies. We were watching the game, and to a man, all of us felt like we were all about 99% sure Nebraska was going to win the game, just because they felt like they were that much better. If you had a freeze moment in time, what are you and you guys watched the game together? You and former Husker linebacker Stuart Bradley here. What were you guys confident Nebraska was going to win?
We were confident. I think it's just like everyone's a little frustrated. But yeah, I think what would you bet your life on, right? I think if this were Illinois or a little bit better team and that's how we performed, it was 0-0, I think it'd be a lot harder to be like, I'm betting my life. But like, I think more people than not would have been like, I'm betting on Nebraska, right? But I mean, it was more like, what the heck, right? So
well, yeah, because I'm with you. I think the confidence came from, it was more about, man, I just thought Purdue was bad.
They were, and that's where I think the confidence was like, you're not scared of what Purdue's going to do. More like it was impressive though in the sense of we had a lot of things really go poorly for us, like the field goals, right, and then the Fedon. Like those were things that may have thrown us to lay an egg for the rest of the game.
Yes,
in the past, and for whatever reason now, Nick, like I think we are showing the ability to overcome those sort of games, right? Maybe not like the big games yet, but like we're showing this is a proof that we are able to win the games that we should, quote unquote, win.
And I think a lot of that has to do with when you have a real quarterback.
Yeah.
And I do think Rule has a great pulse on his team in terms of like knowing what they need to hear in big moments.
Yeah.
And I'd imagine he said all the right things to him at halftime.
Well, he also was pretty cool. That I was reading the paper today. Like apparently, like before the game, he had him like doing like Oklahoma drill.
I saw someone had a video of it. Yeah, he had. He had pregame warmups. Rule is out there. It's one line of the team on one side, the defense. Another line of the team is all the offense, and he's calling dudes out one by one like the old days, and they are lining up and just doing one-on-one Oklahoma drills.
Yeah.
And so
it sets a tone. I mean, like it sets a tone. The other team's going like, these guys are here to play, and I think it wakes your team up. So I mean, you got to respect that, and I mean, I'm sure we're going to talk about the defense here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that the one thing that was the third quarter drive to start for Purdue was like, 13-play drive, 55 yards, and they make a 45-yard field goal. That was maybe there was like maybe a sliver of a gulp, oh boy, what was going on here?
But holding them to a field goal was important, I think, because it felt like they chewed up such a big part of that quarter that like a 7-point lead feels big all of a sudden. Well, where 3 I don't think that felt more manageable.
Sneaky huge play then happens. So Purdue scores, they go up 3-0. Nebraska comes out, they need to answer.
Yeah.
2nd and 8, they run a jet sweep to Ja'Cory Barney. Barney, trying to get to the edge, their safety makes an amazing play.
Yeah.
Tackles him, stands up with his feet, throws his feet, steps over him, talking smack, unsportsmanlike conduct penalty.
It's just dumb.
Huge play. It was going to be 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3, and instead it's 15 yards, automatic first down, and now all of a sudden Nebraska's humming along, and then they end up getting down to 3rd and goal, and because you have a real quarterback with Raiola, you're able to run that layered crosser.
That play represents everything we have not been able to do. It is such a pro style, like next level comfort. He just made it look easy.
Didn't he?
And it's just like, I'm just like, when you see those things happen, that to me is the ultimate sign that things are different. That play right there. There's a lot that was missing field goals.
Right.
Man, things aren't going our way. But that is different.
He is the best player on the team and the number one source of optimism and confidence for this year and beyond by the Grand Canyon. Yeah. I mean, because it was 3rd and goal, 1st and goal, they run it to Dowdell, he gets stuffed. 2nd and goal, they try the fade to Nair. And then it's 3rd and goal, and keep in mind, you have not, at this point, you're Mr. Sneeze. At this point, you have not made a field goal. Yeah. So you're like, you don't necessarily, like, you think you do, you're at like the 6-yard line.
You're almost on, at this point, after two 2 blocks, right? 2 misses and blocks. You almost are we going to ever kick it again this game? You almost go to, we're going to go for every 4th and short, no matter where.
I couldn't quite tell. I'm not sure if you listened to all of Rule's post-game press conference. I thought he almost insinuated that they were not kicking another field goal.
I wouldn't doubt it.
I thought we, as our friend group talking at half, we all said no.
You might kick it if it's inside the 10. But
So like
I
that.
don't.
So maybe it's at the 6.
Maybe if it's 4th and 7 or something inside the 10, you might kick it.
Right.
Right. If it's like 4th and goal from the 7, then you may kick it. But if it's really short yardage, you're not. If it's, if you're at the past the 20, you're not kicking a long field goal. So like there's a very small window where they may have kicked it. Like it would be like a 25-yard right in the middle.
Right.
It's
Like an extra, like a glorified extra point.
Yeah, and it has to be like a 4th and 7 where it's long enough where you're like, this is right outside of the the
It'd have been interesting
executable.
because so what you're describing is literally this. So it was 3rd and goal at the 6.
Yeah, if Raiola
doesn't hit it, it's 4th and goal at the 6. It'd have been interesting what they would have done.
I think they go.
I think they go too. I think everybody was completely done.
I think you just go, we're done with this.
No, field goal team, don't even, it's not happening. So again, now all of a sudden it's like the route is on.
Yeah.
Nebraska forces a 3 and out. Then Nebraska drives all the way down. Now, I'm curious what you think about. I want to get your thoughts on it. They drive all the way down into the to the 2-yard line, and red zone play calling is challenging. But I do think there's been this weird thing with Satterfield where he gets sometimes his most cute inside like the 15-yard line.
Yeah.
So they run a jet sweep to Gabe Ervin.
Yeah.
Gets down to like the 2. They run a play action and Raiola has to it was kind of smart by him. It was clearly not there. He was in trouble and just throws it in the dirt. And then they bring in Carter Nelson, who was like he's like
high jumper.
And they try to send him over the top and it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And now it's a huge, because it is only 7-3, and now it's the 4th quarter.
Yep.
4th and goal at the 2. They just ISO. They bring in the heavy hitters. They bring in Kevin Nash, Razor Ramon, and they bring him out. They degeneration X him, and Dowdell punches it in to make it 14-3. But the Carter Nelson thing, I think that's one of those plays. Like if it works, you're like, what an amazing call! I think I'm a little out on all the. There's a lot of trickery and cuteness.
And personnel that is. These are big moments for first carries.
Yeah, great way to put it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like same with Harburg. Like some of these, I'm like, these are big moments. And this guy's not out there a lot. Like to me, like I kind of, it's just a little bit harder for me to like. I don't trust quick. I'm very slow to trust.
That's such a good point. It's a good way. These are big moments for first touches, and not only first touches. This is a guy as Carter Nelson taking a handoff.
That's my point. It's his first time as a running back
taking a handoff, and I don't want to act like I know if he was doing goal line and 8-man football over the top, but I can't imagine he's done that a ton in a game.
No.
Because he probably didn't need to.
Yeah, we've talked about him. He's maybe the best athlete in the team.
I love the kid, but
like I say, these are first carries
in big
careers.
Moments. Yes,
and it's a big moment. So I'm with you on the sort of like slow to trust. Yeah, but here's what I liked. What do we do on 4th down? We lined it up.
Yeah, lined it up and ran it right. Like
we
4th
ran up
and 2.
power.
Yes.
We ran up power.
Right.
Right? Like got under center, run power. Right? Now, that is not getting cute. That's just saying this is like
good call.
We're just gonna try to play power football and we think we're better. Right? Yeah. That's all that is, right?
Especially consider. So the other thing with the Carter Nelson thing going to the top, this is the second worst rush defense in the country.
Yeah.
Do you need to pull out your freshman tight end that's a good high jumper at the goal line, I don't want to be Johnny Jerkstore.
You're right. So this is where here's where I like your analogy. So let's switch over to another game. Did you watch Penn State, Illinois?
No, but
Illinois, it's down to the wire. I think they're down 7, or maybe they're like going in the tie. I think this is in the fourth quarter against Penn State at Penn State, right? They get down 4th and 1. And 3rd and 1. In scoring range. You're like in the, I think inside the 10. And they are shotgun instead of being under center, where it's like get under center, quick. There's less room for error, less time for the defense to penetrate, less all these things that when you're out of the gun, it's harder to run power football. They snap it over his head, it rolls backwards, and then they blow it,
and then they lose,
and game over.
Yeah,
and that's a situation where if you're under center, you're taking the snap. Worst thing that happens is you don't make the yardage, but you're not like losing a bunch of yards. And I don't know, it's like you're so much more in control.
Right.
And I just don't understand this. We're 3rd and 1, 4th and inches, and we're out of the gun. Can't do it.
I don't like it.
But at least
at least on 4th and goal, they did it. They got under center.
Is what I want to do. Yeah.
Yes. Dowdell punches it in. Now it's 14-3 with about 10.5 minutes left in the game. Sneaky big play on this ensuing Purdue drive. Now, I talked about I played the if game. Now, if I was a Purdue if podcaster, I'd be big on this. How about on 3rd and 11? It's only 14-3. The game's not necessarily completely over at this point, barring some crazy thing here. 3rd and 11, they get their big tight end ISO'd on Hartzog in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
And Hudson Card threw a perfect pass. Big tight end's got Hartzog on his back, and the tight end just drops it.
Yeah.
It would have flipped the field. They would have converted a 3rd down, but that's a big drop.
Yeah.
That just wanted to throw that in there. But then Nebraska,
the big play is if they didn't call on their touchdown.
Yeah.
Where it was down. I mean, he was downfield blocking, but
right.
If
that was a big play too. Yeah. If your Purdue podcasters playing the if game, they're ifing the hell out of those two plays.
If our guy's not an idiot and slams his feet, it's a different ballgame.
Right.
It really is. That guy that slammed his feet and got the penalty.
Seriously, I truly think in a weird way that play is arguably the biggest play.
It springboarded us to that first touchdown.
It did. It was going to be 3rd and 3 or 4. Keep in mind, they were 0 on 3rd down in the first half. This is going to be their next 3rd down, but homeboy stands up. He almost held him up like he was Ric Flair calling for the figure 4. He was like, we're going to do it. He's going to do it.
You haven't watched a lot of wrestling. I know you have. You've been watching McMahon.
I watched the Vince McMahon documentary, so I'm going to see how many different wrestling
is in your brain.
He held it. He was like, he's going to do it. It's the sharpshooter. It's the sharpshooter.
Good heavens.
But he was going to put him in the Boston Crab.
Yeah.
And he did. Dumb. And then So, okay, now Nebraska got the ball 14-3, 9 minutes left. The only reason I want to bring this up is Emmett Johnson makes a great run for a 1st down, and Nebraska gets 2 penalties called on him. They called Banks for holding that was iffy, but I couldn't tell. And that's where Rule throws his head. He's on the white line, but Rule throws his headset down. He gets an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty.
Rule the camera was on Rule, and he was just going at it he was so upset the whole game.
On the low, while we're on this topic here, I was going to save this for but on the low, Rule yells at the officials a lot.
Yeah.
He's more Pelini-ish than he is not Pelini. Like, the difference is Pelini just had his mad face was so crazy.
Yeah.
And he would come completely unglued way more.
Yeah, Matt Rule goes to 8 frequently. Pelini went to 11.
Like, all the time.
Yeah, Pelini could get to 11, and then when you're at 11, it's bad PR.
But here's the thing, and even, it's kind of a big moment to get a 15-yard penalty.
Yeah, that's a big mistake by Matt Rule.
Yes. So it's now 2nd and 28. Again, they're only up 14-3. 2nd and 28 now at their own 30. They run a great screen pass to Emmett Johnson, who gains about 30 yards, and the guy face masks Emmett Johnson, so it's another 15 yards. So all of a sudden, all is well that ends well. They flip the field back up, and then they called Twins right Raiden. Jet sweep. Alex Bullock clears 2 guys out. Barney runs it on in there for
through
reverse.
the deuce. Can you do that?
I don't think
Can you throw the deuce before you're in?
Another moment, I was like, I was fully expecting the flag to come.
I mean, we just got done talking about the other guy. Like, this is one where Raiden is like, why can't guys, like, the celebration thing has gotten so, like, Ty's celebration, I just went, no, like,
yes,
like he just,
everybody's got to shush.
They got to shush. They can't control themselves.
You're right.
I just don't know. Like,
we're in the celebration era of football and basketball. People can't, in basketball, guys, make a 3, it's the mellow 3 to the head, it's like the bow and arrow thing. It's like, guys, the score is 10-7 and there's 30 minutes left in the game.
To me, it's like, it's become like it's such a copycat thing. Everybody does it, so everybody else does it. And I'm like, for most of our lives, nobody did things. And so it's really weird to see when everybody always does it.
Right.
And it just feels weird. It feels like it's too performative. It's too it's not authentic.
I mean, again, that's why we laughed about Dr. James Williams. On the very first time he ever got in the game, he rocked the baby.
Your first time you ever get in and make a play, you rock the baby? I mean, really? It's the first time you've been in. You're just going for it. Like, I mean, maybe I come from a different world.
Me too. But Barney was lucky.
Because then it would have been 7-3
because he wasn't in yet,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, they would have maybe penalized us, and we kick another field goal.
Yeah, and John Holt comes out.
The game's not over yet. Before you start doing that.
But now it does fit. So it's 21-3 with 6 minutes left.
Yeah.
And then on the ensuing drive, John Bullock went to Bo Ruud camp, dropped into coverage, pick 6. I bet and Stu.
I need to go to Bullock, get into the end zone camp because that was beautiful.
That was a pretty good little run by him afterwards.
Yeah, I mean he looked natural running it too.
I'm loving John, but talk about a storyline that I was not anticipating.
He's the number 1 guy in defense right now. There's no doubt in our mind he is now number 1
100%
on defense.
The guy.
Yeah.
I mean, he is everywhere. Awesome.
Yeah.
28-3 ball game. Purdue tacked on a garbage one, but whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, I have like a series of questions I want to kind of throw at you before we kind of wrap this bad boy up. But first, I got to tell you about Pella Windows and Doors. The local team at Pella, they are fantastic in Omaha and Lincoln. Debbie and Vince and the crew, when they did work on my home, the in-home consultation was fantastic. I was watching literally a best friendship blossom between Debbie and my wife going over different things. But that's the kind of stuff you get. And the local showroom is great where you get to really feel and see what the choices are going to be in your home. The installation experts are fantastic. So you need to call the Omaha or Lincoln showroom or go to PellaOmaha.com to find out how you can get $100 and new windows and doors starting at $122 a month. That's PellaOmaha.com. That's PellaOmaha.com. And the Nick Bob Podcast is brought to you by Peerless Energy Systems. The owner, Ed McMorrow, homeboy, was watching the 98 Orange Bowl. He's watching Nebraska, Tennessee. Sees Peerless Price. Goes, man, Peerless Price. I like Peerless. What's that? They asked him what it meant. He said, without equal. Boom. Motto stuck in his head. Was launched the company. That was going to be the motto, and Peerless Energy Systems was born. Peerless is a Solaire authorized distributor for Nebraska and Iowa. They go to market via local distributors and make some of the best air compressor and ancillary air compressed air equipment in the industry. So if you are in manufacturing, utilities, food processing, transportation, refineries, you got a car dealership, automotive, whatever, for any and all air compressor needs, Peerless Energy Systems has you covered. Go to peerlessenergy.com. That's peerlessenergy.com. hurrdat.com. And we are brought to you by the Brickway Cut Spike Lucky Bucket family. Lucky Bucket Oktoberfest, delicious. I mean, we've talked about our love for these whiskeys. They're so good. There was a whiskey event that you and I got invited to that was on Saturday during the game. We couldn't go, but we do need to maybe set up a tour.
I'd love it.
We need to see how some of the best bourbons and whiskeys are made. I'm telling you, my man Bo Ruud, you're not a big drinker. You're really not, and you like the Cut Spike bourbon.
It was smooth. I mean, we were making old fashions,
we were crushing
and it was just going down so smooth.
Usually, let's be honest, you drink whiskey and you're like, you could become Fire Marshal Billy. Hey, say something about this whiskey. They say something. Does this whiskey taste good? You might take it a little weird. You look at this shot of whiskey, you think, yeah, that's soundless. But then you put it in your mouth, you're like, oh boy. But you don't Fire Marshal Bill the situation with the Cut Spike and Brickway bourbon. It's fantastic. I think that's what they wanted in the copy points or said. Do a Fire Marshal Bill impression for me, please. Make sure you check them out. They're great. I said I need another bottle of that thing, man. So we got another bottle coming.
Love it.
Also, I'm trying to get us some Pilsners as well. So we'll see what happens there. They're located in the Omaha, La Vista area. Go check them out. 4 blocks south, 120th and Giles. Shouts out to the Brickway Cut Spike Lucky Bucket family. All right, Bo. Running back situation.
Somebody just played their way into the
Somebody
lineup.
just, that is a song.
I mean, Emmett, I've been saying about Emmett, like,
you have been on him.
Physically the least impressive, football-wise maybe the best. I don't know how to, like, he just seems to he broke more tackles than anybody I've seen this season.
It broke more tackles, made guys miss.
Yeah. He's a good football player. He's not elite physically, but he is a really good football player. And that's what I like about him is, like, he deserves to play. And
yes,
so I feel like right now it's a 3-man sort of game between, I think Dowdell's been the best around like the goal line. Ramirez the best catching it. And Emmett's sort of been
just the best all around.
Because he catches it pretty good too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had 8 carries for 50 yards.
I think he had another 40 receiving.
Yeah. Yeah. So then he also had 2 catches for 35 yards receiving.
Yeah. So you get a hundo. You got 100 yards.
It is, but it's kind of hard. Like, I don't quite have a sense of what's happening with the running back rotation. Because, like, what's a hard thing to say out loud? You know how many carries Emmett Johnson had against Illinois?
None.
Zip.
But that's
like, that kind of can't happen.
No,
like, what's going on here?
See, this is where, like, nobody's good enough to separate right now.
Okay.
I'm okay with that. I think you just go with the hot hand. Like, we are in a hot hand business until somebody separates.
Okay.
And nobody's done it. Like, Dowdell had some good moments. Ramirez had some good moments. And now Emmett's had some good moments. So now it's like, I think you keep letting them compete. You get him in the packages. Who has a great week at practice? Who's dialed in? Sometimes running back position, like, your body matters, and like whose body's feeling.
Who's feeling good?
Who's bouncy?
So is that what it's going to be? We think, like what you just described.
Until the end of the year, where hopefully somebody separates. I feel like Ramirez separated at one point in his career, like when he hit the Michigan game.
Yeah, in 2021,
he separated, and then.
What's weird is it felt like Dowdell maybe. Even after the fumble in the first game, he got it back. Kind of felt like he separated for a second. But now, I don't think he's ran great the past couple of games.
Yeah, the Illinois game, I felt like it's like he didn't do anything special.
No.
And so when you don't do anything special and you're not, like, well established yet, like, these guys are all just kind of getting their first touches, right? I mean, I guess not Ramirez, but
no, but
but like nobody separated so clearly that, like, look, if you're not balling, like, somebody else needs to get, like, some touches too, right?
Yeah, you know me, I prefer that you pick a guy, but I was ready to say that's Dowdell, but now look at me.
I think
now I'm sitting here.
We're still it's hard to say we're still in the sorting mode. We're still in sorting mode.
I wish and you watch them. At the end of the day, we've seen somewhat of a really the most unknown commodities, probably Dowdell in some ways. Yeah. I mean, Emmett was kind of the guy for the lion's share of the end of the season last year.
Yeah.
You've seen Ramir, he was backed up Rozier in 83.
Yeah, Ramir's been here a long time.
So we know what Ramir is. Like, we have a big sample size of what these guys are. So it's interesting.
But can Dowdell be a guy we just hand it to? And I don't know if we know that yet. Like, he's been pretty good, but like, I just don't know if he's, because Ramir's got his role, I think, is like the receiving back.
Yes.
Of. Like, he has, like,
he seems like he's the best, maybe like blitz pickup guy too, like that stuff.
Yeah.
But it feels like the best pure runner is Emmett.
He's had some good runs. I mean, he's had good runs this year. But Dowdell still deserves a chance to get some touches. And I mean, I think you play all three and
see where it all kind of shakes out, I guess. But in a perfect world, I would love to see. I prefer a guy to get 25 carries and let him be the guy. But I just don't. Clearly, that's just not probably what is going to happen here. We overall was it progress? Was the Purdue game progress? I mean, I think we have to say yes.
Yeah, the fourth quarter was overcoming sort of of laying that egg in the first half, right? Like we found a way to win on the road where that's not really the place where we've found a lot of W's in the past.
No.
Like a road game where we're playing bad. Like, how many wins in the last 5, 6, 7 year, 10 years, right? Like, we'll take that every time. We'll take a bad performance in a W every time. Dylan rights the ship, steadies us, makes the big time, play that we need.
The throws, he's drawn pass interferences because he knows how to make those throws. And
here's another point I think we should also mention. Like, they were not great. Their offense was not explosive at all. But we were making statements last week like, our defense got out schemed.
Yeah.
How did
I was just going to say that. Yeah. I was just going to say, we sat here and on the game recap pod and even the midweek pod, and it wasn't just us. It was a lot of Husker land, whether it be the writers, the other podcasters, the radio shows, fans in general. People were starting to question Tony White, and they were starting to question this defense. Now, you don't beat up Glass Joe and celebrate thinking Purdue's not great, but at the end of the day, you got to hand it to the defense. They basically gave up 3 points.
Yeah, every team in the Big Ten, you have to just be consider like, hey, every time you play well against them, like it's a good thing. We should celebrate, right? So the defense, I felt like adjusted.
Yep.
To me, like that's what I saw. I saw, okay, we came out, we shored up some tackling. I felt like schematically, it looked like there was the movement was we varied the movement a lot and it looked cleaner, right? So like the way I phrase it, like if they're trying to do a lot of these like zone blocking schemes, right? Did you see ever where the one where like Ty did the little like stunt that he missed the tackle, but it was the right defensive call. Like they're trying to just zone us to death. They're not like man block down or anything like it's like man blocking versus zone blocking. When they're just trying to reach you, those X stunts are really effective. Like things like that, Tony White, I felt like was calling correctly. And just it looked like our shifts and our fits were all in line.
And the tackling seemed better because of it probably too.
It did look like, could you reestablish a defined defense, clean it up,
right?
Be sound. It looked like we did do that, even though it's Purdue, but that was a nice little bounce back, I feel like, for the Black Shirts.
The main thing, our buddy Willie, who I watched the game with, he asked me before the game, he goes, what do you want to see today? And I was like, I just want to see a win and I want to see the defense kind of respond. Check.
That's it.
So if everybody's going to sit here and question and bash the defense, like we got to give them credit where credit's due. I mean, Purdue basically they finished the game with 226 total yards when
70 junk yards the into.
Yeah. So, right? I mean, basically they had under 200 yards of total offense. Like, yeah, they're not great, but like Maccabee's not terrible. And they held him in check pretty good. And so you got to tip your cap to the defense.
Purdue did a decent job. They held on the ball for 29 minutes. We held on for 30. We took it away once. They got no turnovers from us. They did block our field goals though. Penalties, we were both egregious. Really, it came down to, our defense was much better than their defense and did a better job. Held them to 10 points, and like I said, it was 200 yards, but really like 150.
Really, it was like 3 points and 200 yards of offense.
Yeah.
So I'm glad you brought that up.
Dylan did what Dylan does,
and Dylan was solid.
Offense did what our offense does, right?
Couple more things. We will have to talk about Barney and the club, but man, is he special! Like those, a big part of the offense is the jet sweeps and the reverses with him.
Yeah,
you talk about a thing you better prepare for.
Yeah, you got to be ready.
You better be ready, because basically a lot of first drives for Nebraska have had a reverse in them with Barney.
Yeah, and that's another great way. We were watching with a group, and our buddy Jake, we were talking about this, how like a reverse to start the game, it just slows down the defense for the next quarter. You're going, we got to stay home, right? Like, and, he said, I never really thought about it like that, but like, it's not just a play call. It's like, it's a play call with like some intent to it. Like, you do some things that force them to be like, okay, we have to defend the whole field now, right?
Right.
That is when you're feeling good in offense, right? Like, if you feel like they're like playing hard in the run, like you attack them, back them off a little bit, right?
Yes.
Or if like they're backed off, run the ball, pull them up, right? You're trying to do the thing that you don't want them to do, right?
Yes. So I think
it's just hard.
He's exciting, man. He is, and I think they're doing a great job of getting him, like a concerted effort to get that guy 10 touches a game. So I wanted to talk about him. Also, how about, and Rule brought it up, shouts out to former Lincoln Southeast Knight Gunnar Gatula, got the start. And like sometimes the best thing you can say about a lineman is you don't even like notice them.
Nick, you don't have to notice Southeast Knights. They're dependable.
They're dependable people.
You can count on the Southeast Knights.
You can count on them, okay? You can count on these people. Wanted to give a shout out to him. Sayer Wright was
he was gimping around.
He was gimping around with Hill on the struggling a little bit with that plantar fasciitis, and then Wright it's because I've liked what I've seen from Wright. I think he's been pretty good. Just something to kind of keep an eye on. You're going to need you need good corners, obviously, as things progress. What do you do? Two more things are out of here. What do you do with field goals moving forward?
I don't know. I have no idea.
I mean,
they say the rules quoted in the paper saying, like, or maybe it's Bashini, like, in practice, they're great. They're excellent. They never miss. It's like they're almost like, you would almost call them head cases in the game. Like, they get in the game and they just are rattled. And I'm I don't know what you do about that.
The scary thing to me is it's one thing if you could just say the kicker sucks. But right now, it's like, it's the snapping's a problem. Like
Snapping
it's not,
and backup kicker, that's very inexperienced. Like, it's just not a great situation to be in. Like, it's like a personnel issue. It seems like.
Explain to me how the psychology, both maybe to the good and to the bad, for both sides of the ball. If you go into a game and this team ain't gonna kick a field goal, they're going for it. If they get, not in a punting scenario, but so when they get inside the 40 or the 35 or whatever, they are going to go for it.
I just think it limits your ability to win close games. If you can't kick field goals.
Yes.
Close games come down to field goals. Every point matters. Like, you will lose more close games than not if you can't kick field goals. So to me, when I see that, I just think, well, we're going to lose a couple games this year if we don't fix this now.
It does feel like if this kicking situation stays pretty much how it is, you do feel like that puts a ceiling, whatever that ceiling is, whether you think it's 8 wins, 7 wins, 6 wins, whatever. If you can't kick a field goal.
Nick, if we can't kick field goals, I would put it at 2 games. In my mind, feel like being able to execute in the kicking game, like field goal kicking specifically, is worth 2 games to us.
Yeah.
This year. 2 games by themselves, whether they can kick, at the league average versus
you could argue one was already the Illinois game, and this game was almost night because of it.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It'll just be interesting it'll happen. I mean, there's going to be, here it is, 3rd and 7, incomplete to Nair, and you're at the
20 again.
28. Yeah. What do you do?
Right now, they're probably going.
Right now, it feels like they're going for it, but whew, again, don't get lulled into a false sense of like, well, you can do that against Purdue. Like, I mean, when you start playing, I mean, the next 2 games, teams are going to probably, I bet Ruckers is ranked, and there's a world where Indiana's ranked.
The Iowas, the Wisconsins, those are the games where it's like every field goal matters.
Yes.
Those guys are very good at like, I mean, Iowa's the king of like punts, like defense, special teams, make a lot of field goals, win every game by 3 to 7 points. Like, they've been doing it for 20 years.
I did like what Rule said in the post game where and I'm paraphrasing here, he basically talked about how, listen, everybody is going to talk about what we're not. I want to focus on what we are, and spoke positive. I do think you do have to every once in a while do that as the head coach, where it's, I mean, this place can, I mean, you felt it. We've lived it. We've been like, this place can get pretty cuckoo when things start.
Yeah.
You lose a game, and you need to have somebody kind of stand up and pat the team on. Sometimes what the team needs is a public pat on the back from their coach. So I like that. Last thing, we're out of here. Is the train horn, is that fair?
It felt borderline. I think,
I'm serious.
I would put a protest in that. Like, hey, like,
I get you're the Boilermakers. I get it.
It's like if somebody had like one of those like bull horns with like, like
Yes.
air horns. Like,
yes,
it's almost like an air horn, like right before we're like snapping the ball, and like,
because it's one thing for of course the crowd making noise, yes, like that's what, but that is basically pumped in crowd noise. It's just a horn.
A pumped in air horn almost.
Yes. Now maybe Peacock just had the audio, like really they were like, all right, do you want to plug it into the air horn or into the like I don't know.
It was probably deathly loud on the field too. I mean,
I just felt like if you can play a horn,
well, then why don't we do this? Why don't, before every time they're about to hike the ball, we like
yes,
throw
play whatever. Play just
this ball, dude. There should be like a shot clock, or for like when you can play artificial sounds, like we play like back in black, stand up
or
and
stand
shout.
up and shout,
but like not before like.
Yeah, I just thought
15 seconds before they snap the ball or something. Like 15 seconds, the music's got to go off, and it can be crowd noise that's really generated by the crowd.
You know what I wanted? The only thing I could think of that I want to see happen now is before every big third down, I think on the Husker Vision screen they should put up the Dumb and Dumber in the car, and Jim Carrey does "Want to Hear the Most Annoying Sound in the World," and he just does, and you crank it up
until they snap the ball.
Guys, but I don't know. I just like this train horn. Is this fair?
I was thinking the same thing.
I'm not totally sure what I think of that here. Anything we're missing, my friend, or did we cover it all there?
We covered it. I think, Nick Bob, we won that game.
Yeah.
It was ugly. This is going to be a game that we're going to not think about a ton as the year goes on. It'll be more of a forgotten game. Good that we won. Not a great performance, but doesn't matter. It's a W.
You just had to win it.
You had to win it, and it doesn't matter,
You
right?
had to win it.
These are the ones we've been losing, and then you have to think about them all year. But this, you can win it and forget it. And go and we're going to be 4-1 with a couple of games which I would call winnable.
Now you got Ruckers, Indiana, Bahe, Ohio State.
I mean, if we can beat Rutgers and we can beat Indiana, like this year is going to be more successful than in a long time.
It feels like I think people were saying we even said it. We were previous, like the 4-game stretch of Illinois, Purdue, Rutgers, and Indiana. They don't get this. It's not as sexy as the Colorado game or the Ohio State game or the USC game, but it kind of felt like heading into it. If Nebraska goes 3-1 on this 4-game stretch, they're probably going to have a pretty good year. Well, they're 1-1 now. These next 2 games are going to be huge.
If you can get to 6-1. Fan base is going to go,
They're going to exhale.
We've exhaled. We've finally gotten to the bowl. We've gotten over this hump where we're like we won a few games, but then we'd always like step back and like
right.
It would at least get you to like a baseline. Like we are over some sort of mystical ceiling, and we're ready to take the program to the next step. And it's 6 wins. 6 wins is the next step to start off. Start building off of.
There's a world. I mean, they're favored against Ruckers. I saw the line. I couldn't believe it. It started out Nebraska fair by 6.5. It feels like a lot.
It does.
I mean, Ruckers is undefeated. Ruckers has got the leading Big Ten rusher from a year ago. They got Schiano. I mean, he's again. I'm big on like. With all due respect to like Ryan Walters, just like he's a young coach, like these Brett Bielemas, these Greg Schianos, these guys that have like they just got this they got scars from year they've seen it all, man, and they know how to press the right buttons, and so you're now going to be you got Greg Schiano coming to town, so this ought to be good. Is that it?
I think that's it.
I think that's it. Let's go. Should we go file a formal complaint about the train horn?
Yes.
Okay, we'd like to file a complaint,
City
sir.
Council
in West Lafayette. Yes.
A Hurrdat Sports Network production.